When solving multi-step equations, it's important to understand the different types of terms. So in this particular equation, we have 9 plus 3x equals 4x plus 3. The 9 and the 3 are both constants in this equation. And the 3x and the 4x are coefficients in this equation. So when we start to move terms from one side to the other, we have to keep in mind that what we're doing to one side of the equation, we have to do on the other side of the equation, but we have to do it to the term that it is the same as. So I like to do what is the easiest. It doesn't really matter what side you start on. You're going to do the inverse operation just like you've done in the previous lessons. So you can either subtract 9 on both sides, or you can subtract 3 on both sides. But I'm going to do what's easiest. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3 on both sides of the equation. So 9 minus 3 is 6. This cancels out because 3 minus 3 is 0. And then I'm going to bring down the remaining part or remaining terms of my equation. So I have 6 plus 3x equals 4x. Now it does matter which term that you move now, because if I was to move 4x to the other side by subtracting, that would leave me with 0. And we don't want a 0 on one side of a linear function. So I have no choice. I have to move the 3x. So the inverse operation is going to be subtraction. So we're going to subtract 3x on both sides. This cancels out because that's 0. And I'm left with 6 on one side. And I have 1x on the other. And this time I don't have to do any division because 1x is the same thing as x. So my answer is 6. So on the next equation, same thing. We need to identify the terms that are the same. We have negative 8 and we have positive 2, which are constants. And we have 3x and we have 1x, which are coefficients. So I'm going to start. I can either add 8 to both sides or I can subtract 2 on both sides. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the adding of 8 on both sides of my equation. So this cancels out, leaving me with 3x equals x, and 2 plus 8 is 10. So again, if I'm to subtract 3x on both sides, that would leave me with 0 on that side of the equation. And with linear functions, we never want a 0 on one side. So that means I need to subtract 1x on both sides. That leaves me with 2x and 10 on the right-hand side of the equation. So now I'm left with 2x equals 10. 2 is being multiplied to x, so that means that my final step will be to divide both sides of the equation by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, leaving me with x, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, another equation. We have 6 minus 6x equals negative 6 minus 3x. So again, we have 6 and we have negative 6 that are our constants. We have negative 6x and negative 3x, which are my coefficients. So I am going to choose this time, I'm going to choose the negative 6 to move to the other side. And I'm going to do that by adding 6 to both sides. This is 6 plus 6 is 12. I'm going to bring down my 6x, negative 6x. This cancels out, leaving me with negative 3x on the right-hand side of the equation. I have to move the negative 6x, and I'm going to do that by adding 6x to both sides. I'm left with 12 on the left-hand side, and I'm left with 3x on the right-hand side. I am multiplying by 3. So my final step will be to divide both sides by 3, leaving me with x equals 12 divided by 3 is 4. One more equation. So this time we have 5x minus 2 equals 3 plus 6x. I have to join my negative 2 and my 3. Let's see. Let's add 2 to both sides. I'm left with 5x on the left-hand side. I have 5. 3 plus 2 is 5 with 6x on the right-hand side. I have to move the 6x, and I do that by doing the inverse operation, which is subtracting negative 6 on both sides, canceling here. This leaves me with negative 1x equals 5. We never want our variable to be a negative, so you need to think of this as being negative 1x. So the way to get rid of the negative is to divide by negative 1 on both sides of the equation. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 cancels out, leaving me with x and negative 5.